Preparing live stream is being live streamed. Got it. YouTube में थोड़ा slow है. Okay, I'm redirecting to YouTube. Okay, so we are started on YouTube also. Yeah, I think so. दोनों की out of share screen. Yes, good to go. Okay, yeah. Okay, ciao. So, hello, all of you. Dr. Hardik, hello.
How are you?
Hello.
Fine.
Good to connect. So, we go with our topic. Can we wait for 1 minute before we start? Dr. Gitesh, hello. Dr. Hardik, hello. There is a 1 minute.
सर YouTube ने pause करी दो browser पर जाइए.
Feedback from YouTube. I don't know what to do.
Just open YouTube on the browser અને pause કરી દો એને. Already browser માં open હશે YouTube. Just pause it.
Should I pause it? Okay.
हाँ, YouTube pause થઈ.
Okay. So we start with today's topic. Phatak Materia Medica and Boericke Materia Medica. These two Materia Medicas are the most popular books in our fraternity, and most of the times we bank our prescriptions on these two books. All these years, most of the times I hear lectures on repertory. But one needs to know that the very source of the repertory is the Materia Medica and the proving. Right? So if we look at it, the proving is kind of converted into a repertory in one side and it gets converted into the Materia Medica at the other side. And very often, the Materia Medica material is also getting added into the repertory material. So in a way, the proving and the Materia Medica are predecessors or precede any repertory. So when we study the repertory, if we do not study the Materia Medica, then the study is largely incomplete. This we have to understand. If you want to understand the nuances of the repertory, you will have to understand the nuances of the Materia Medica. Okay, so this is first prerequisite. Secondly, what I find, especially with the younger homeopaths, is no, I'm okay. Keyur, I'm happy if somebody is put on the video because I like to talk to people, not to a screen. So I'm glad if somebody is putting on the video. Okay, so sorry, my thought process got broken. Yes, in the younger generation, I find that most people will stick to only one Materia Medica and not really use any other Materia Medica. So here the problem begins. When one Materia Medica becomes so much of your favorite that you try to solve all the cases in your clinic by just one materia medica, then it is a serious problem. It is the same problem like some of you would feel that, look, I know the Kent's repertory and now I can solve all my cases with that. So that is not possible. The master prescribers in our fraternity have a knowledge of multiple materia medica, multiple, and not just a knowledge and familiarity with the materia medica, but in-depth knowledge. I remember in the early 2000s, I remember traveling to Calcutta while I was working with the homeopathic links to get the article from the best prescribers in Calcutta. So I went to Dr. S.P. Day, Dr. Dubey, and Dr. B.N. Chakravarti and Dr. L.M. Khan. 4 master prescribers. I spent nearly a week hopping around in their clinic and spending my time with them. And I found that all of them, while they have their own special ways of working with their patients, all of them, without exceptions, knew multiple materia medica, and they knew every single full stop and a comma. So, should we really take up this exercise? That is the first question. Why? See, if you read materia medica, most of the materia medica give you the same symptom, right? For example, every materia medica is going to tell you arsenic is restless and has burning pain. So, क्या फायदा? सेम सिम्टम ही पढ़ना है ना तुमको, तो क्या फायदा? तो वही फायदा समझने के लिए हमने आज का शेयरिंग रखा है. So, Phatak and Boericke, which is better? Sometimes my students also ask me, sir, which materia medica is better materia medica? Which I should read? So the answer to this question is not a simple one. Okay? Because each materia medica has its strengths and each materia medica has its weaknesses. Exactly like our repertory. Every repertory has a strength and every repertory has a weakness. What we will have to learn is to learn individual materia medica in depth. Once you understand the individual materia medica in depth, then you are in a position to decide what is the strength of this materia medica and what is the deficiency in this materia medica. Once this is decided, then you are in a position to use it in a particular clinical situation. Okay? So, let us begin with our first slide of the day. Okay, is this visible? Dr. Vishakha, is this visible on your screen?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, great. Okay. So as you can see, both these materia medica, the common factor between both these materia medica is both these authors have decided to add only the most verified symptoms. Both of them, if you read in the introduction, in the preface written to both these Materia Medicas, both of them are going to say that whatever symptoms are added are verified by the author himself or verified by the contemporary homeopaths of their time when the Materia Medica was written or the earlier predecessors. So the question of authenticity, which is more authentic, Phatak authentic or Boericke authentic, shouldn't arise. Both very equally authentic. Now, then comes, where is the source? What is the source from where it comes? So as you can see in the graphic in front of your screen, Phatak predominantly comes from the Boger synoptic key. In fact, Phatak takes Boger synoptic key as his fundamental foundation stone. And if you read the preface well, it says, Dr. Phatak says that I am clarifying what Boger wants to say. Because many times, because Boger would write in very short few words, it would be very difficult for especially a junior and even for many times even for seniors as to understand what he means by that one word. Now, it's not a good idea, right? Sometimes where you write one word where you understand the meaning, but the reader doesn't understand all the possible ramifications of that word. So Phatak, Dr. Phatak takes up this issue and clarifies lot of words which might appear difficult or ambiguous in their understanding. So having said that, he goes further to expand upon the Boger synoptic key by taking symptoms which are confirmed from other masters, especially Kent. He takes it from Boericke also. He takes it from Clark and he takes it from Kent. As opposed to this, remember, Boericke's Materia Medica was one of the earliest Materia Medica that was available to the fraternity. It was concise and precise. Lot of information made concise but precise. The base of Boericke Materia Medica is clinical suggestion and provings. So directly from proving you will find, and also clinical suggestion. And his foundation stone is herring. And Phatak's foundation stone is Boger synoptic key. So question of authenticity doesn't arise. Now we go to the next form. Keyur, I will need your input. I'm able to see the participants, but I'm not able to see my own slide. What do I do? Can you just help me out? Okay, doesn't matter. I will just go ahead and while you all can read. Very important, in Phatak, in the beginning of the text, you will find a surgical index, which is a surgical therapeutics. And Boger has a systematic therapeutic index available that we all know. But Phatak's therapeutic index is not very well explored. right? This is one part that we need to see. Now, if you look at what I have written, the structure of the book, both these books have a definite structure, but see the sequence in what I am writing. This is very important. This refers to the stress that the author gives to this type of symptoms. Since Phatak comes from Boericke's synoptic key and from Boericke's line of thought, we will see that Phatak's Materia Medica systematically will talk about the location, the sphere of action, which I call regions. This aspect is a little undermined in Boericke and not so systematic. It is available. It is not that it is not available. It is available, but it is not as succinct, as clear, and as sharp as it is available with Phatak. The next part is in Phatak, pathogenesis takes the next step. You will find pathogenesis and how the remedy affects after the regional description. In Boericke, you will find very often the remedy starts with the pathogenesis and the location is mentioned within the description of the pathogenesis. This is to be understood. The next, if we see in Phatak, the most systematic aspect is the first paragraph called the generals. In Boericke, you will also have the general description of the remedy, but it is not as wide, as comprehensive as Phatak. Please note this fact. The generals are very comprehensive, more full, more extensively understood in Phatak. If you really want to understand 95% of the generals of the remedy, you will open Phatak. If you want to understand the most essential generals, Boericke will mention. So my recommendation for a third year, second year, fourth year intern, and even up to MD students is Phatak will be very important first. Okay? Because Phatak gives a more complete picture than what you will find in the understanding of the remedy than Boericke. Please note this. At a junior level, getting a global view of the remedy is very important, while focusing on the most essential part becomes later. First, you understand the whole, then you pick out what is very important. So understand the remedy in the whole totality through Phatak. This is my recommendation and my experience also. Because Phatak is very systematic in paragraphing also in his writing, it is much easier to grasp what Phatak says as compared to Boericke. Boericke is very free-flowing, like I told you. Therefore, it is good when you start with Phatak to understand the overall picture of the remedy. Then comes, I have written generals and the mind. Phatak gives lot of importance to the generals and to the mind. Whereas if you see my slide with Boericke, I have not mentioned the mind. Not that Boericke doesn't mention the mind. There will be some remedies in Boericke which will talk about the mental state of that remedy far better than Phatak. But by and large, the mental section is not very nuanced in Boericke. We need to understand that what is therefore the philosophical difference between these two authors that influences the structure of this report of the Materia Medica. We need to understand that Boericke, Boger and Phatak chronologically there is quite a wide space between Boericke and Phatak. So by the time we had Boger and Phatak, the understanding, universal understanding of the mental state, of the mind, of the psyche was much more developed than what it was during the time of Boericke. And therefore, the mind section is a little atrophied in Boericke. Nevertheless, it can be very useful for a particular remedy. Okay? But here we are taking a very broad view. Then comes the modalities. Phatak, after you finish reading the generalities section of Phatak, you have the modalities where are clearly placed. Whereas in Boericke, you will find that the modalities are at the end of the session, end of even writing the particulars. So this again talks about the author's mindset. Dr. Virendra, you're not able to see the slide. Okay. Anybody else is not able to see the slide? Even Barira, you're not able to see the slide.
The slide is visible. Sir, the slide is visible. I believe the slide is not changed. That is why.
Correct. I'm talking on one slide only. I am talking on one slide only. I have not changed the slide. There is no change in the slide. Okay. So if you want, I can just stop this sharing once and again restart it. Okay. So let me try and do that. Okay. So is this better? Are you able to see now? Slide?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Good to go. So this again talks about the emphasis that the author puts on our in his understanding of the remedy. Remember, whenever we are studying a remedy, there is a philosophical concept on which you are trying to understand the remedy. And that is going to influence what is important for you in that particular remedy. And one cannot discount this. This is our first prejudice. And each author has a prejudice. Without that, he will not be able to structure the Materia Medica. So that philosophical concept is very important. How it has evolved from Boericke to Phatak. Now, I want to, and last, of course, is the relationship. Now, if you see, in Phatak, relationship is quite atrophied. But if you see Boericke, relationship is done with a specific aim in mind. What is the specific aim? The tiniest remedy that has a possible similarity with the remedy under discussion is in detail brought out. In fact, some of the remedies, the tiny remedies, which are not there in the index, you will find in the relationship remedy. They don't have a main, don't have a main head for that particular remedy. But in relationship, you will be able to find that remedy, right? Okay, so that is the structural difference between these two Materia Medica. Now, I want to quote Boericke. So Dr. Rishi says Kent had written about repertory having mind section in 1897. BBCR came in 1905, which had mind section. Boericke came in 1901. Phatak in 1999, huge gap, yes. Now, have a look, Boericke in 1901 and BBCR in 1905. Now, Boericke, while it got published in 1901, the compilation began much, much earlier. Kent had written his mind section even earlier. But the idea is the understanding of the psyche. Phatak in 1979, Dr. Rishi, not 1999. So this understanding of the psyche became more consolidated by the time Boger came and by the time Phatak was in practice and while this book was compiled. Okay, so this difference is very important. Okay, now we go one step further. I want to change my slide. Okay, I will change my slide. 1 minute, just give me a second. Yes, so this is what I have described. Now, there are some nuances in the generals also that you will find that in the objective symptoms in Phatak are few. But if you read Boericke, the objective symptom, what we typically call pathological symptoms, stand out when we read Boericke. They don't stand out so much when we read Phatak. In Phatak, what stands out is the generals, the mentals, while as in Boericke, you will find the objective symptom, the pathological symptoms stand out much more than the generals and certainly more than the mentals. The modalities, of course, have a clearly given section, and we have the remedy relationships that I already mentioned to you. Now I'm going to share some examples. Have a look. If we see Phatak, there is no equivalent to this. Yes. In iodum, Boericke writes, it arouses the defense apparatus of the system by assembling mononuclear leukocytes whose phagocytic action is marked. Now, this aspect of iodum is not given highlighted by Phatak. Now, this is interesting if we see. What does this really mean? This means a CBC report of your patient. Mononuclear leukocytes. Leukocytes having a single nucleus. Which leukocyte? The monocyte. Right? Now, increased monocytes, no text gives except Boericke. Now, this can be a very vital input from Boericke. So, I remember during the COVID time, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I had this patient who had very high leukocyte count and high-grade fever and no other characteristic symptoms. And I failed to prescribe, because high-grade symptom, what am I going to prescribe? So this patient went to another doctor, another homeopath, and he happened to be my colleague, Dr. Hardik. And he just saw the CBC report. He says high-grade fever, high neutrophil count, almost 80, something like that. It was around 80-85% of neutrophil. And the remedy that he prescribed was pyrogen. And the patient got better. So this is very interesting for me. Because I am not so much of a Boericke user, but I have, over these last COVID years, I have started going much deeper into Boericke. This kind of symptom is available in Boericke. High monocyte and all other symptoms, if they will be there, then you can prescribe from, if you have knowledge of Boericke, you will be able to prescribe for the patient. Like how I failed in this pyrogen case. Then let us see another very beautiful symptom from Argentum metallicum. And Boericke, in the very introduction, in the very generals, he says, here small blood vessels become closed up or withered and carious affection result. Now, this is so powerful, this symptom. No other materia medica gives this under Argentum metallicum. And this is the uniqueness of Boericke that I was talking about. So therefore, in a situation, or even when you're differentiating the remedy, if you have the pathological report with you, which tells that there is a vasculitis, that means the small arteries are involved and they are getting necrotized. And if there is a differentiation that I have to do and I have no other symptom except this pathological report, then this Boericke's input will help me prescribe Argentum metallicum with lot of confidence. This is not available in Phatak, completely not available. Then let us look at Argentum metallicum in Phatak. Phatak says loss of control over mind and body. That aspect is missing completely in Boericke. Had I not understood the loss of control of mind and body, I wouldn't even understand the pathogenesis of Argentum metallicum. So now for me, the picture of Argentum metallicum is loss of control over, we know larynx is the chief affection of Argentum metallicum. Loss of control over the speech is because vasculitis. And I will look at the case not just at the level of the clinical expression, but also at the level of the pathological expression or pathogenesis. Loss of control over the mind, along with small blood vessels closing up or necrosis. We are talking of vascular dementia. If I had studied only Phatak, I would wait for that loss of control to be expressed clinically, because this is the clinical expression. But when I add Boericke, it gives me a completely new and a complete comprehensive dimension of what kind of patient I am dealing with. Then let us take up another aspect of Phatak, where in Arnica he writes mind and uterine symptoms alternate. In Boericke, no similar mention is there. What is the meaning of this? if you read Phatak, he gives this symptoms reflex from genitals or symptom reflex from another organ system. He will give lot of concomitants. The idea of concomitant coming from Boger and Bonninghausen. This aspect is less clearly depicted in Boericke. Similarly, let us look at Aurum. Nerve deafness with embarrassed speech, caries of mastoid, obstinate fetid autoria. And Boericke writes, chronic nervous disease, labyrinthine disease after syphilis, and obstinate fetid autoria following scarlatina, caries of ossicles. Now, it is not either or, whether I read Phatak, whether I read Boericke, which is my favorite. No. Here you see the concomitant of nerve deafness and embarrassed speech. And here in Boericke, he gives us the fundamental cause following infection of syphilis and that of scarlatina. If I add the two together, I have a much larger understanding, much deeper understanding of the remedy. This is what I understand when we bring these two together. So which final question, which materia medica to use when? So answer is quite obvious. Now this is a very broad generalization. By and large, when you have good generals, when you have good mentals, good modalities, good concomitant, and good clinical expression of the patient, then Phatak is the materia medica of choice. When you are stuck in a situation where you have only pathological symptoms, laboratory symptoms, biopsy symptoms, what we call diagnostic or pathogenetic symptom, the chance is that Boericke will lead you to the right remedy. So our duty is to understand this difference and integrate it in our head, so that however the patient poses to us, we are not out of options. That we have to understand. The problem is if we stick to one materia medica, then very soon if the patient, like what happened to me in this COVID case, because my focus all these years was like what Phatak was telling. But that opened my eyes. That how a patient presents is the patient's luck and our luck. The idea is to be versatile with your materia medica. And I will once again, I have told this example umpteen number of times. Be a surgeon who knows to use many, many tools with lot of skill. And you cannot be a surgeon who will say, okay, I am going to use only the scalpel and take care of my patient. That is not possible. So we have a large amount of work to be done, studying lot of our materia medica in lot of depth and different aspects. Please note that if you can clearly put in your head what is the strength of one, it will actually take away the weakness of the other. Like Phatak is a little atrophied, giving these kind of pathological symptoms, when I club it, then even cases with deep pathology who are only present to me with pathological reports, I will be able to prescribe effectively. So this is what I had to share today. Just wanted to ignite a spark in all of you to take up this very detailed study. It is very interesting when you take up a detailed study. And then you look at the nuances. Right. So which repertory is relevant to Boericke's Materia Medica? So Boericke himself has got a repertory with the Materia Medica. Now, understand, the two Boerickes are different, who have written the repertory and who have written the Materia Medica. Okay, they are not the same Boericke. So that you will have to factor in the difference. So I personally believe that a Materia Medica, one Materia Medica has to have its own repertory. Today, what we are doing is all khichdi. You know, one repertory, we want everything inside, all khichdi karo. But because there is a philosophical logic behind every Materia Medica, that same logic has to get translated in the repertory. Therefore, 1:1. Therefore, you will find Phatak Materia Medica, Phatak repertory. They are 1:1. Same logic is translated. Doing too many, taking from other authors, no, we are distorting our pictures when they reach the repertory. So one has to be very careful when you use a repertory which is all mixed up from all sources. Yes, so now feel free to put in your comments, feel free to ask questions. I can spend another 5-10 minutes if you have questions. Most welcome. It would be great to make a...
Yeah, Munjal, Hiten here.
Dr. Hiten, my very dear friend.
Yeah, now with Boericke, you can say, Boger.
Hiten, your voice is coming from too far. Can you just come close to the source?
Like Boericke, we can also think of Boger synoptic key, in one word, but that one word has a lot of depth in Boger synoptic key.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
what Phatak writes
elaborate.
in... Sorry, am I interrupting you? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
No. That's it. You can go ahead.
Yeah. So that Phatak's one paragraph is actually equal to 2 lines of Boger synoptic key, the first 2 lines, which is very difficult for most of us to understand because Boger has died. And whatever he had in his mind, it went with him.
Right.
And Phatak probably understood it best. Yes, Hiten bhai.
Yeah, and the
Can we
repertory
use
repertory of Boger synoptic key is also very, very useful.
Yes, it is.
It's very useful. Yeah.
That whole of that thing
Yeah.
has been put in the Phatak Materia Medica.
Phatak, yeah.
Phatak's repertory. Dr. Virendra, can we use Boericke repertory for repertorization for Boericke? No, Dr. Virendra, that is exactly what I told you. First thing, the two authors are very different. Secondly, the remedies that they have selected are very, very choosy. If you read the repertory, the preface of the repertory, one will understand that the purpose for that repertory is to bring to only highlight the most prominent remedy in that symptom. It is not a comprehensive repertory that every symptom of the Materia Medica is put under, listed. That's not the case. So one cannot say that it is an exact replica. Similarly, Phatak Materia Medica and Phatak repertory is not the exact Materia Medica replica of the Materia Medica. Only the most important part, but the philosophical concept is the same. Yes. Any other thoughts? Okay. So, I just wanted to read this one line. Which repertory should be used for Boericke Materia Medica? See, the question is, Dr. Puri, ये Materia Medica directly repertory में translate नहीं हुआ है. Most of them. In fact, even Phatak, the whole of Phatak is not translated into a repertory. That is not happened. So that's a little problem for us. Some newer authors have tried to do that. And it would be worth having a look. I don't remember their names, but I know that some people have attempted to do it. So you can look through the BGen site and you will be able to probably get that. So one-to-one directly nahi hai, except, let me tell you, the only exception to this, and it is so wonderful, is the whole of Allen's encyclopedia, 11 volumes. 12 volumes. The first 10 volumes are the proving, and the last two index, 11 and 12, every word of the proving is put in the index. That is the only exception where the author himself has taken pains to convert that whole proving in the exact index. Very authentic book. No, none of us use it, because none of us have that kida to do some deep research, deep dive. We all get suffocated when we do deep diving. Okay, any other who has commented on Boericke Materia Medica and compared? Dr. Keur, I am not aware of that, honestly saying. I'm sure in this large universe somebody must have done, but out of my consciousness, if anybody knows, please share it. Now, before we close, I want to read and quote Boericke. And this sentiment, Phatak also shares, right? So he says, homeopathy is not only one-sided, homeopathy is not only many-sided, but it is all-sided. One has to investigate the symptoms and pick up the... one second. Okay, hold on. Let me not distort the quote. I want to read this from the introduction. Just hold on. Yes. So homeopathy is essentially not only many-sided, but all-sided. That is one. She investigates the action of all the substances, whether articles of diet, beverages, condiments, drugs, or poison. She investigates their action on healthy, the sick animals, and the plants. Now, this is the sentiment of Herring. He decided also to prove on sick individuals also. And that is where it gets reflected in Boericke. And last, I want to tell you, it is accurate and reliable compilation. One minute, not this. Yes. The fact is, if you are reading the 9th edition, the second page of the introduction of Boericke, the fact is we need any and every way to find the right remedy. The simple simile, the simple symptomatic similimum, and the farthest reaching of all, the pathologic similimum. And I maintain that we are still well within the lines of homeopathy, that is expansive, progressive, science fostered, and science fostering. This is what I was trying to tell you when I gave you the Argentum Metallicum idea. Not just the simple expression at the superficial level, but deep inside, even the pathogenetic expression of the remedy, we must know. And today, when we do the internet, lot of substances, we will get this pathogenetic changes. Okay, thank you so much for this wonderful presence. We meet up after another 2 weeks with some very interesting topic again. And let us see what comes up. What about BBCR repertory for the same cause, repertorial symptom and material available in materia part? Dr. Puri, can you just tell me what is your question? Not able to understand. Yes, Keyur, this is very important exercises. We will do one session where lab reports we will convert into materia medica symptom. Very, very useful. Dr. Virendra, I am waiting for you to tell me. Please explain your question. Last question for today.
सर जैसे आपने बताया कि जो मटेरियल मेडिका जो बोरिक का मटेरियल मेडिका पार्ट है और रिपेटोरियल पार्ट है वो दो अलग अलग बोरिक के द्वारा मेंशन है। ठीक उसी प्रकार जो बीबीसीआर में जो मटेरियल मेडिका पार्ट है और रिपेटिव पार्ट है उसकी ऑथेंटिसिटी कितना है सर? मतलब जो अपन रिपेट्राइज करके जो मेडिसिन देंगे उसमें जो रिजल्ट ओरिएंटेड जो रहेगा वो उसकी रिलायबिलिटी कितना रहता है?
हाँ, तो जैसे मैं आपका क्वेश्चन समझ पा रहा हूँ, आई विल जस्ट ट्राई टू आंसर कि सिंगल मटीरिया मेडिका सिंगल रेपर्टरी ऐसे सिर्फ फ्रैगमेंटा डी विरिबिस जो मैंने बोला आपको, सिंगल मटीरिया मेडिका सिंगल एंड एलन्स एनसाइक्लोपीडिया सिंगल ऑथर मटीरिया मेडिका and single author same repertory exactly depicting the materia medica and the proving. From the time of Boericke himself has taken multiple sources for his BBCR repertory. This is the biggest problem with the BBCR. Multiple sources, different philosophy. Kant ने तो already different authors को ले ही लिया है पहले से. So you will not be able to find कि BBCR के सब symptom कोई एक materia medica में मिलेंगे, not possible. जैसे कैंट में होता है वैसे. तो ये ध्यान रखना है. सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग और बेस्ट ऑथेंटिक रिलायबल होते हैं सिंगल ऑथर सिंगल मटीरिया मेडिका डायरेक्ट कोरिलेशन अगर मिलेगा आपको तो, और जेंट्री का कंकॉर्डेंसेस और नेयर रेपर्टरी ऑफ कोर्स, जहां मटीरिया मेडिका सिंगल ऑथर सेम दो द ऑथर इज डिफरेंट, it is the same materia medica from where all the symptoms are coming. That's what makes them very authentic. वीरेंद्र जी, आपका आंसर क्वेश्चन आंसर हुआ? Yes, herring and nair.
Yes sir.
Okay. चलो guys, thank you so much. Dr. Nidhi, you want to say something? कुछ बोल रहे थे? Okay. चलिए मिलते हैं 15 दिन के बाद and we come up with some more interesting topic. Same time, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Okay. So do I stop the recording first, Dr. Keyur?
Yes, sir. Stop the recording. Even if you don't stop it and exit, it will automatically stop.
Okay. So I will stop the recording first. Okay.
Once
And
you
we
just
end.
exit, it will automatically turn off the live stream also.
Right. Okay.